So it's the middle of the week. It is Wednesday the 18th. Probably will go up today. But I have today and tomorrow off. And if that seems unusual to you for someone to have a Wednesday and Thursday off, it is because I work in retail. And that's actually what I kind of wanted to talk on real quick today. Um, so yeah, I have the next 2 days off, and it can be kind of weird having my days off land in the middle of the week. But so far, for the past 2 years working, or past 3 years working in retail out of college, it's actually not been that bad working on the weekends. I always find a way to see people on the normal days off, and if I have to stay out late and, just go to work a little bit more tired the next day, so be it. But I kind of wanted to just ramble a little bit about how I actually think retail is a pretty decent job to have. There's definitely a huge spectrum when it comes to retail. Some places are better to work for than others. That's kind of just something you'll find with time. But I kind of want to just talk about my experience with retail and why I actually don't think it's that bad of a job. So for someone working in retail, that's obviously not what I went to college for. I have, a bachelor's of science. I'll kind of talk more, in the future about what it is. But yeah, retail was just kind of an easy way for me to not move back home, not move back in with either of my parents, and just kind of continue living in the city that I went to school in. This is the place I always kind of wanted to end up. So being here was a priority after college. In retrospect, I don't know if that was necessarily the smartest thing, but my friends were still in Boston. My girlfriend and I had just started dating that spring. So, I thought it was pretty important for me to stay in the city. I was feeling anxious about moving home. I think there's some negative connotations about moving home after college. And honestly, if it works for you, it works for you. I kind of wish I had done it, but at the time, I didn't really think it had worked for me. I did end up moving back home at one point for a little bit, but I was still working in the city, and that's a whole story for another day. But I just wanted to touch on like some of the benefits I think about working in retail. And I'm going to talk about this from my perspective, which is working at a new job and a place that I feel like I really like and I feel like I'm well taken care of. Again, I don't think this stuff applies if you're working at a place that treats their workers not super well or has really awful management. I think this is going to vary a little bit. But if you do find a good place, I wanted to talk about, what I think retail really lends itself well to. Growing up as a very shy, introverted person, I've always feel like I've been playing catch up on my social skills and trying to feel like I'm on the same level as my peers in terms of my ability to communicate with the public and kind of maintain conversations with strangers. I still don't really like going to public events where I don't know anybody because, trying to make friends on the spot can be really hard. I've gone to some concerts by myself and ended up meeting really nice people. But then again, it's like I'm there for a specific thing. So it's like nice to kind of make pleasantries with the people who you're crushed up against with at a concert. But as soon as the music starts, you're really just thinking about the music and you're not thinking about the people you just met. Or even if you go to a concert with friends for that matter, you're not really thinking about them too much. Again, that could be kind of a huge overstatement, but I'm just speaking my truth and my experience. But as someone who feels like they've been kind of playing catch up their whole life to reach, I don't know, this arbitrary level of social ability, retail has been really great for really pushing me out of my comfort zone because obviously I have a huge obligation to talk to people because that is the work that I do. Again, I have a job that I really like now. I also am in a managerial role, so that does change things. I have a lot more say over what happens in the store. I have a lot more control, and I think that can be some of the issues with retail is being an associate or being just a supervisor, not feeling like you have a ton of control. I think that what leads to people kind of feeling very uneasy and just not feeling super committed to what they're doing. Also, again, if the managers are awful and they suck, you're not really going to be super motivated to, try your best every single day. But I think with the work that I do, I've met a lot of great people. Retail, sometimes if there's a big turnover rate for not bad things, but just seasonal employees and people who are maybe still in school who this is not their full-time job, you get to meet a lot of really cool people. You got to see a lot of different perspectives, especially in the city I live in. I get to meet people who have lived there their entire life, or I get to meet people who are maybe from around the country. And I get to know these people super well, and I think it's a really great melting pot to meet a lot of different personalities at once, for better or for worse. I think it teaches you really good mediation skills if you try. Again, because you're a bunch of random people all working together. Sometimes you become friends, sometimes you don't. If you make friends with the people you work with, I consider that a really nice luxury. But again, that's not always a constant. I've been lucky enough to become really good friends with a lot of the people that I've worked with in retail in the past. But I think it's important to whatever job you're working, especially if it's retail, find the ways that you can improve every single day. And if there's something you hate doing, maybe force yourself to do that thing because you might get really good at it and you might actually like it. Again, that's not retail specific, but I think that's more of a greater picture of trying to find enjoyment out of where you are or wherever you are in that point in your life. Again, with retail, you're not going to be at that place forever. You don't have to think that way. Don't think you're going to live and die there for the rest of your life. But, it can be a really good opportunity to meet a lot of people, not only on your staff and get to know them and kind of get to know a lot of different perspectives, through gender and sex and race. And you get to meet a lot of really cool people who come into your store, sparking up those conversations with strangers, not only because you technically have to because it's retail and you have to serve your customer, but, you can find ways to make it enjoyable and you can find ways to, really learn a lot about people, ask them about themselves. If you're a chatty person like myself, retail is really great. I did find myself kind of initially coming home with a lot of very low social battery left, especially living with my girlfriend, or even just when I was visiting her when we weren't living together. It can be really hard to, go through a whole day of retail and then be expected to be super social afterwards. But my social battery and my, what would you say, like my tolerance for social situations is definitely much higher, and I feel like I'm a more well-spoken person because of it, because I'm really thinking about what I'm saying on a day-to-day basis. But I think the service industry, you're always bound to learn a lot of stuff about yourself and a lot of stuff about other people. And yeah, especially now being in a leadership role, I'm learning so much about myself and the leadership style that I want to impart on my team and my coworkers, and finding the best ways to be the best manager for them that I can. And again, this is all general work knowledge. This is stuff you can take with you wherever you go. But maybe I'm the exception. I've had some good places that I've worked at. I've only worked at 2 separate jobs so far, both regarding retail. But I don't know. I feel like my life is infinitely changed because I work in retail, and I feel like I always now have a different perspective of when I shop, and how I interact with the customer, or how I interact with the people that work there. And I feel like there's a deeper level of understanding. And yeah, you're bound to learn so much about yourself working in retail. If that's the hand you're dealt right now, post college, and you can't get a job in your field, there is some money to be made in retail. You just have to really work hard for it, or you have to find those right opportunities. It's also all about who you know, and because retail, you meet a lot of people. it's a great place to build connections and kind of, you're not going to make maybe lifelong friends with your coworkers. If you do, that's pretty awesome. But these are all people who could potentially get you jobs elsewhere, recommend you, all sorts of other great stuff. But if you're working in retail, just know my heart's out there with you. It's definitely hard. It doesn't always pay the best. My last job paid infinitely less, and I'm very grateful for the position that I'm in now, not only because of the pay increase, but the control and the leadership that I get to act on every single day. It was super nourishing for me and like what I need as a person. But again, if you're in retail, we're in this together. It's going to be hard, but it's not forever. And if you're thinking about working in retail, if you go in it with a positive mindset, kind of like with the things that I've told you, you're gonna be an infinitely more well-rounded person in the future. And I think you just never come out of retail the same. And, you can make that for the better and not for the worse. But anyways, this is just a middle of the week check-in. This was just some stuff that was on my mind. But, holiday season is getting busy. And there's not so much time to always just think about, what I want to talk about or, talk with my coworkers. But, again, with this channel, if you want to listen. If you're not feeling anything that I'm saying, totally fine. Maybe having the different perspective is helpful for you. But, if you're in my shoes, I hope this was relatable and helpful. So I don't know when I'll post next, but I'll see you then.